Hello, this is Everything, and this is how I do it. I remember the first time I mixed 2 tracks together. It was at my friend's older brother, named a guy called Mark Parkins, and I think I was 12. He had a set of 1210s. I played the drums a little bit when I was sort of 10, 11, so I kind of had a rhythmic understanding, if you will. We were into rave music. We were only kids, and he was like 16 and we were like 12. But we were his mate's older brother, and he said, "Oh, come on up." We all had a go, and I could do it straight away. And he was like, "Do it again." And I did it again. It wasn't perfect, but it makes an old school hardcore, and it was in time. And he was like, "Oh, you should get a set of decks." And I was like, "All right." And then for Christmas that year, my mum bought me a set of JB Systems Disco 2000s and a Cam Made-to-Fade 25 mixer. And she's still got the receipt at home. And she had the receipt for my Technics as well. So yeah, that was the first time I ever mixed 2 records together. I remember it clear as day. So I have 4 CDJ 2000, preferably Nexus 2, and then Zone 96 Allen and Heath mixer. And then I bring my own Roland Demora delay pedal and a Boss Reverb RV6, which I used to use the RV5, but the RV6 is just a little better. And then I put them through the send and return, and then you can use reverb on channel 1 and delay on channel 2 or A or B. When I'm playing techno, I try and at least it doesn't always happen, but I try and at least keep 2 tracks playing pretty much the entire time. When you're playing this kind of groovier, loopier techno, it's easy to keep keep one loop in and then mix in another. But I always have one deck for effects, so like claps and drum rolls and stuff, which I will use with the pedals and stuff. I'll show you when you're here, you'll see. So basically what I'm trying to do there is get 3 records in and out as quickly as possible, but using a bit of effects as the transition, so when things change around, you can actually, there's a bit of like transition rather than just bringing things in and out. I know some techno DJs like to totally blend, hang on. But yeah, that's actually worked out alright. Hey! But yeah, so basically, and I try with techno, I try and keep things moving as much as I can. Reason being that not a lot happens in the records, and that's the beauty of techno. But it's the beauty of it from a musical point of view and for a DJing point of view. For me, it means I can play fuckloads of tunes and have as much fun as possible whilst I'm doing it. But I try and keep things moving, and there's always points where you can change. Do you know what I mean? As I say, not loads happen, so you can. Okay, here we go. Yeah, sorry, I keep getting distracted by the mix. But yeah, it's So yeah, I basically try and keep things going as much as I can, keep 3 tracks going, just to add a bit of excitement and just to keep, and it's nice, isn't it? It sounds good. That doesn't sound too, that's 3 tunes, that doesn't sound too busy, does it? Not to me anyway. And then this Tamora pedal, yeah, so with these pedals, so you've got the feedback here. This one's amazing, the delay, because it you can create. I'll just show you here. Look, if I go, I'll just take these out of the mix for now. So you've got here. See, that's on full feedback now. And now what I've done is I've filtered out. I've got this assigned to filter 1. If I assign it to filter 2, see, it's now post filter, so you can hear what's going on. And you can see the break here. You can see with the time thing here. It works great. It just adds something extra. And then with the reverb, I'm much more, there's not so much you can do with it. It's just to add a kind of, just kind of adds a crescendo. And I will more play with the EQ on here for this one. I just think with these effects, for me, rather than using something with built-in effects, it's different each time you do it, and you get different things from it. So you can do like, so. Like a 1-beat loop. Better mix another tune in quickly. And then I'll keep that one looping. Although it's slightly out. Shh. No one's gonna know. No one's gonna know. In fact, I might do an acapella here. What I wish I could have is 5 decks. Because then if you have 5, you could have acapellas on one. You can have acapellas on one, effects on another, and then 3 decks to just mix on, and then, but you know, kind of everything. So I have a folder which is loops and effects, and then I have just acapellas on.
Walk the beat.
down, and then if you change the tempo or the sort of, you know, the, what do you call it? The pitch range. If you change the pitch range from +6, ±6, ±10, ±16, or to wide, and then take the master tempo off, that creates a. And then you can. And that's another little trick I always do. Well, not always, because it would get boring and people would probably want to stab me. But, you know, from time to time. So yeah, I mean, for me, that's how I mix techno, with a bit quite quick, few tricks. Yeah, seems to work. Lovely. Back then was, and still to this day, at the time it was Carl Cox and DJ LSD. They were the two DJs that I listened to that they DJed in a similar way to I do, like chopping and cutting and bringing things in and out and spin backs and tricks and stuff like that. And it was not like tricks, do you know what I mean? But like, not like scratching and stuff, but just doing more than just playing one record after the other. And I remember just listening to an LSD tape, and he did this spin back at this one point, and I didn't really know, like, I was just before I'd had a go on decks. I just remember hearing, thinking that, but it's this little tune says something, it stops, and he goes, and then the beat dropped perfectly as he did spin back, and it wasn't a, it was a, and it came in. It was like, that sounds fucking wicked. And then I sort of found, because I thought that they were, when I first heard hardcore or rave music, when I was like, first tapes I heard, I thought that the DJs I heard were people on stage playing keyboards, and I didn't understand that it was just a guy playing records. I heard this music and I would hear these pianos and these drums, and I thought it was a band playing music in an electronic fashion, and then slowly realised, it's a DJ. And then, yeah, they were all pretty rambunctious nights that I played at. It wasn't for the faint-hearted, hard house, techno, hardcore, and then later on playing house music. But even when you played warm-up, what really taught me the most was when I got residency at the Rock, because all of a sudden I went from playing in grotty clubs, but then went to playing at the Rock, which was like, you know, the DJs were Pete Tong and Mauro Picotto and all these international superstars that I've been listening to for years, and all of a sudden I was warming up for them, and you had to quickly learn that you couldn't fucking whack it out before them. So that residency taught me a lot. That taught me the most about DJing, in a sense of knowing what your job is at what time of the night. Before that, you're playing at nights where it's full bore from the beginning to the end. So you're like, whether it's a hardcore night or a jungle set, or if it's hard house or acid techno or whatever, it was from the get, or breaks, even breakbeat. You know, it's breaks, you play hip hop, but generally it was just from the start, let's have it. Whereas when you get into the more houseier, the bigger rooms, and the DJs play globally, then you realise, oh fuck, I've actually got to toe the line here. So. Again, when you listen to, I listen to a lot of I listen to a lot of Randall sets, and Randall's like an absolute king. And with this music, I've noticed it was always mixed quickly, but I like these as drum and bass has gotten more and more modern. The tunes have got shorter and shorter and shorter. And so you've got to be fucking quick getting them in and out. Sorry, really quick getting them in and out. I've got a proper sweat on now. But yeah, it's just really, really interesting music to mix. And for me, at the moment, this style, this stuff like Halogenics and Slater, Boo, Disruptor. There's so many people that Break. I mean, Break, he's been around for ages, but the music they're making at the moment is just fucking quality. Right, so yeah, this is how I sort of prepare for a gig. I will put the folders in. I've got the folders mirrored in iTunes. The main folder I have is Rekordbox, and that is basically just a gig by gig thing. So every gig I do, or every weekend, sometimes not every gig I do, or every weekend, I have a folder, and I'll put tunes in there that I think will correspond with the set I'm playing, so to speak. So you go right through, right down here, Resist Cox, which is Carl Cox at Resistance, Croatia, then you go, this just, Croatia will be while I'm playing in Croatia for a weekend, so I'll go and play a few sets, and then it just goes through basically. So any gig I play, I stick a load of tunes in there that I think will work, or make a load of edits and put them in there. And then I've got a folder for techno, then I've got a folder for no clap techno, which is techno without a clap on the 2 and the 4, which is handy when you just want a tune that just rolls along. I try and give things as much kind of definition as possible, so I know where I'm going. I know if I'm going to a folder, I pretty much know what I'm getting. The loops and effects folder is just a thing of loops of different drum rolls, clap rolls, vocal effects and stuff, and then acapellas. And then as you go through, there's loads and loads of different folders. So when I do an all night long set, when I know I'm playing for 6, 7, 8 plus hours, then I'll make a folder specifically, not just a playlist, playlist folder for that set, because within that I'll be playing different genres or different styles throughout the night. And so this is a warehouse project, so I've got everything: trance, techno, acid house, tech house, bangers, etc. A bit of everything, so because you want it to seem like there's more than one DJ playing, so you want to go through a few different styles. That's how I like to do it anyway. And then going through all the different folders, and then right at the bottom you can see all the different genres here. I have a folder called Playlists on Clubs, which basically what happens when you plug the stick into the computer after a gig or whatever, then it transfers the playlist from the stick into the computer and goes into a folder called Histories, which I'm sure you know, and if you don't know, you now know. And from that, if I've played a gig, I will then I'll put into this folder, I'll name the set from which club or which country or which city or which venue, which festival, etc. And I'll name that, and then I'll drag all of those tunes into that playlist. I also have one other thing that I do, which I don't know if anyone else does this, and I'm sure there's a way of doing it in Rekordbox, but I do this in iTunes. So I have a way of labeling new tunes. When you buy a load of new tunes, you get a load of new promos. Obviously you get a load and you listen to them before a gig, but you don't know exactly how they all are. So before their name in iTunes, I label them. If they're an absolute banger, techno, I put 4 exclamation marks and a space. And if they're pretty heavy, then I'll put 3 exclamation marks and then a space, and then leave the track as it is. And then if they're just a roller, then I'll put 2 exclamation marks. If it's house or tech house or whatever, then I'll put it as 1. And then stuff that's kind of in between sort of tougher end of house and techno, I put them as exclamation point 5. And then I have a folder of exclamation point 5 tracks, which I know are can take you from house or tech house or whatever into a more sort of, they're good transition tracks. So I've got a whole folder of them that I know I can go, stick an exclamation point 5 on now. I think there's probably a way you can do it in Rekordbox where you label with a colour and stuff like that. But for me, I know if I search on my iTunes, I've got all these exclamation points. I know if they've got 3 next to them, then, and for drum and bass, I do it with @ signs. So I do 1 @ if that's sort of liquid, 2 @ for sort of the more groovy stuff, and then 3 @ is having it. So that's how I do it. For me, the turning point was when I switched from Rocket KRK speakers to Mackie HR824 monitors, and the first 2 tunes I made on those speakers were a track called Heavy, which got signed to Southern Fried, and then Entrance Song, which was the track that kind of propelled me into being around and being a DJ for a living. And it was just going from one set of speakers to another, and just all of a sudden be able to get what I wanted to get out of these records that I couldn't with these speakers. I'm not saying they're bad speakers, I'm just saying for me and how I worked, that was a catalyst for me to make the tunes I really, really wanted to make. And the turning point was when I said to my wife, I really think I'm nearly there. I really think I've nearly nailed this. And said, look, give me 1 more year. Just let me, I quit my job, and I just did. I said, look, let me just do this for a year. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll let it become a hobby. And fair play to her. She said, yeah, go for it. She wasn't my wife at the time. Maybe if I hadn't succeeded, we might not be married now. Not saying that she's after me for my money or my fame. I'm digging myself a fucking massive hole here. Twat. Yeah, but basically, so she said that, and in March, this was in May 2010, and in March 2011, Cats and Dogs signed entrance song. So I had like 2 months to go, and yeah, thankfully, fair play to her. The only person I've really approached any kind of back-to-back properly is Fatboy Slim. And that's because he has a certain way he does things. And I'm just a little fucking upstart. So it's like, you've got to, when we first started the first time, it's like, you know, there has to be, once we stop playing, there's no plan, but just initially you've got to, he said to me when we played together in Glastonbury, the first time we'd ever done it, we were mates and we get on well, but he said, just one thing before we go on, can you not grab me on stage? Because I'm quite grabby and huggy and that, and he said, can you not grab me? And I was like, okay, normally I know worries, I won't grab you. And then about halfway through the set, once we were into it, he's like, why aren't you grabbing me? Because he started feeling left out because I was bouncing around and he said, why aren't you grabbing me? I was like, hang on, you told me not to fucking grab you. So then I started grabbing him. But yeah, with Norman, it's he was the only one that I really planned with. Everyone else is just fucking go in and play.